The crypto market? Absolutely exploding in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin's leading the rally, sure, but here's the thing. The real story isn't Bitcoin anymore. It's altcoins, specifically XRP. And if you're looking for that life-changing money play, this is where things get spicy. Think about it. Bitcoin's already massive. The days of getting rich off early Bitcoin gains, yeah, those are long gone. But XRP? Whole different beast. Its market cap is just $178 billion right now. Compare that to Bitcoin's $2.36 trillion. That's like bringing a knife to a tank fight, but in a good way. Because here's the magic. It takes way less money to move XRP. A smaller market cap means it can double, triple, even quadruple with far less capital flowing in. And here's the kicker. It's not some wild fantasy to picture XRP reaching Bitcoin's levels. $2.36 trillion. Totally possible. And that's not even the ceiling. So yeah, XRP right now, it's like holding a ticket to the show before the crowd even lines up. The upside is huge, the potential is obvious, and guess what? The smart money, they're already quietly betting on it. And check this out. Whales have scooped up $740 million worth of XRP in just the past couple days. Yeah, you heard that right. $740 million. I'll actually show you the receipts a little later in the video, but let's just pause on that number for a second. So what happened before all this buying? Pure chaos. Panic selling everywhere. People getting liquidated left and right, basically handing over their XRP like amateurs. But here's the reality. There just isn't enough XRP at these prices for everyone on the planet. Supply is limited. Demand is only going one direction, and that's up. As more people, businesses, and institutions pile into crypto, XRP isn't just going to climb, it's going to explode. And honestly, 10 years from now, people will look back at XRP's 2025 price and think, man, why didn't I load up back then? But by then, that window will be long gone. Now, quick pause here. Just so we're clear, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a finance background, and nothing I say here is financial advice. Please don't go out and buy or sell anything just because I'm talking about it. All right, as I'm recording this video, XRP is sitting at $2.97. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, it's at a whopping $118,581. And get this, it kept climbing through the evening, even after I dropped my last video yesterday. In fact, it pushed all the way up to $119,285. Now, don't worry, we're going to dive deep into XRP in this video, but before we get there, I want to take a step back and look at Bitcoin, because lately I've been seeing a lot of chatter inside and outside the XRP community about whether Bitcoin has already topped, and it's a fair question. Here's where I stand. I don't pretend to know the absolute answer. Nobody does. But I do follow a ton of sharp, reputable analysts, and from what I've seen, the Bitcoin has topped narrative, that's definitely the minority view right now. Sure, minority opinions sometimes end up being right, but most of the time, they're not. So for now, we'll just keep watching how this plays out. All right, so maybe Bitcoin really has already peaked at $124,000. We'll see. But here's the thing. Even if that is the case, that doesn't mean the party's over. Not at all. Because what comes after? Altseason. And Altseason, my friends, is where we see those face-melting rallies that make people's jaws drop. Now, personally, I'm still crossing my fingers for one last explosive parabolic run from Bitcoin this cycle. Why? Because the more money that floods into Bitcoin, the more profit-taking eventually happens. And when that money starts spilling out, it doesn't just disappear. It rotates. First into the giants like Ethereum and XRP, then into the mid-caps, and eventually it trickles all the way down to the small caps. And that's when things go absolutely nuts. Oh, and quick highlight because I can't skip this. Remember how I mentioned Zcash in my last video? Back then, it was already up 60% in a single day. Well, now it's up 76%. That's the kind of momentum we're talking about. Now, Zcash is up 76%, and let me tell you, this is not the kind of thing you see in the middle of a brutal bear market. Nope. When coins start randomly exploding this far into the cycle, that's usually the signal, the warm-up before a full-blown alt season. Now, I'm not saying I know the exact day it kicks off, whether it's tomorrow, next week, or next month. Nobody does. But I've been around this market long enough to recognize the signs. And when you start seeing coins just ripping higher for no clear reason, that's not random. That's exactly what happens before Altseason takes over. It's pure human behavior, repeating itself, cycle after cycle after cycle. And right now, we're watching that play out again in real time. All right, listen up. Remember that Swiss block post I mentioned before the daily close? Yeah, I've got to bring it back because it's just too good not to. Yesterday, they came out and said, if Bitcoin closes above $117,200, the door to all-time highs swings wide open. And guess what? We didn't just tiptoe past it. We slammed the door down with a close around $118,000. Now, this isn't some random Twitter account throwing darts at a chart. This is Swiss block. These guys are on-chain pros. Solid analytics, real credibility. And their take, Bitcoin is gearing up for a run higher. Which, let's be real, is amazing news for the whole crypto world. But here's the part I really want you to hear. Even if, and I'm talking worst case here, even if Bitcoin has already topped out, that doesn't mean us XRP holders are cooked. Nope. In fact, I firmly believe what's most probable is we're about to see alts go absolutely ballistic. I'm talking face-melting breakouts, wealth-changing rallies, the kind of moves we've been waiting on for what feels like forever. So check this out. We just had a post from chart analyst Jelly about 2.5 hours ago, and it's worth talking about. He came out this morning saying, Bitcoin locked in a super strong daily close, reclaimed that $118,000 resistance zone, and even closed above the September highs, completely dodging that potential sweep. His takeaway? A fantastic start to quarter 4. In his words, send it higher. So here's yet another respected analyst saying the same thing. Bitcoin's best days may still be ahead. Now, let me keep it real here. I personally don't think it makes much sense to be jumping into Bitcoin today if your goal is to sell this cycle. If you're one of those folks who's just dollar cost averaging for the next 5, 10, 15 years, cool. You'll ride the highs, the lows, all the market cycles. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that's what most people watching this channel are here for. If you're after the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest opportunity to flip your portfolio into something life-changing, it's not in Bitcoin right now. Don't get me wrong. I want to see mountains of money flow into Bitcoin. And I actually think that's exactly what's about to happen. But here's the kicker. The more capital that piles into Bitcoin, the more it eventually spills into XRP and the altcoin space. And that's where things really get exciting. So yeah, I'm rooting for Bitcoin to run hot because in the end, it sets the stage for XRP and the rest of the alt market to absolutely explode. All right, let's talk about this post from chart analyst Cantonese Cat, because it's a good one. On the screen, you've got Bitcoin with those Bollinger Bands. Yep, those blue lines hugging the price action like guardrails. Now, all through 2024, we were tracking XRP's Bollinger Bands. And here's the deal. The tighter those bands squeeze, the bigger the blast when price finally breaks out. Think of it like a rocket on the launch pad, building pressure, waiting for ignition. Here's the catch, though. The bands don't tell you which way the rocket's headed. Could be up, could be down. But remember what I kept saying all year? Context matters. And back in 2024, before XRP's monster move after the November election, we were deep in a bull market. So odds were stacked heavy in favor of an upside breakout. And sure enough, when it finally ripped, oh man, it wasn't just a move. It was a detonation. XRP went absolutely ballistic. Massive, game-changing, one for the history books. All right, so here's where it gets really interesting. What we're seeing now is Bitcoin's Bollinger Bands tightening up on the weekly chart. And Cantonese Cat pointed it out. Bitcoin's weekly Bollinger Bands have been squeezing. Big move coming within weeks. And he wrote that after Bitcoin had already been pumping on Wednesday. We're talking, what, 7 hours into that move? And even then, he's like, nah, this is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet. Basically, buckle up. Something massive is brewing, and it's coming sooner rather than later. Now, he's not the only one seeing it. Another chart analyst jumped in and literally said, it's so beautiful. That's trader speak for, yep, I'm seeing the same thing and it looks bullish as hell. And look, I'm right there hoping they're spot on because personally, I'm not sold on this whole Bitcoin top is in narrative. For me to believe that, I'd need a lot more. More data, more price action, more convincing arguments from analysts I actually respect. Here's the truth though. Nobody knows with absolute certainty. Not me, not you, not the chart guys. Technical analysis isn't some perfect math formula. It's about probabilities, stacking the odds in your favor. And when you zoom out, macro conditions, on-chain metrics, everything we're seeing around Bitcoin, XRP, and crypto as a whole, it's all screaming the same thing. The probability leans heavily toward us going way higher before this cycle tops out. All right, so check this out. This is from chart analyst Captain Fabic. We've got Bitcoin up on the screen right now, and according to him, that bullish flag has officially broken to the upside. Midterm target? A whopping $140,000. Yeah, you heard that right. $140,000 soon. Now here's the thing. He specifically said midterm target, which means in his mind, it could go even higher. But let me just pause and say this. Even if Bitcoin only hit $140,000 and stopped right there, the amount of money that would be moving around in the space would be absolutely insane. Like, I'm talking game-changing, life-altering levels, especially for XRP holders. That would be a monstrous setup. And don't forget the FOMO. Imagine Bitcoin going into its final parabola, even if it peaked right at 140,000. Not saying that's the top, because it could definitely push way beyond that, but just that level alone would set the stage for a massive altcoin rally. So remember this, even if you don't hold Bitcoin, if you're in alts, you want to see Bitcoin crush it because all that liquidity eventually trickles down into your bags. All right, fam, listen to this. Credible Crypto just dropped an update and it's spicy. He's saying Bitcoin didn't just tiptoe past resistance, it straight up bulldozed through that supply zone, grabbed every drop of liquidity on the way, and now it's chilling around 119K. But here's the fun part. We're only staring down the final boss before breaking into brand new all-time highs. Now, he's been consistent for a while. He sees Bitcoin topping out around 150,000. And honestly, even if that's all we get, that's still a mind-blowing amount of value pouring into the crypto market. But here's where it gets crazy. Once that big money trickles into altcoins, think XRP, it doesn't just rise, it explodes. Multipliers go wild. That's why this moment feels electric. We're not talking about some distant fantasy anymore. Remember when Bitcoin was stuck at 20,000 or 30,000 and everyone thought these targets sounded insane? Yeah, not so insane now. So here's the thing. Bitcoin already peaked not too long ago at about 124,000, just a couple of months back. And suddenly, hitting those numbers again doesn't feel so far-fetched, right? It's wild how your perspective shifts as the price climbs. What sounded crazy $100,000 ago now feels totally within reach. And honestly, isn't it hilarious how human psychology works? Think about it. Most retail investors, your everyday speculators, they're not touching crypto when prices are dirt cheap. Nope. But the second it's at all-time highs, suddenly everybody's interested. It's like when the coins are on sale, nobody wants them. But once they're ridiculously expensive, that's when people feel validated, like, oh, now it's safe, now it's cozy, I feel good buying here. And that cycle just keeps repeating. I mean, look at XRP. Back when it was 10 cents, the idea of it ever hitting $10 sounded insane to most people. But that's not how psychology plays out, folks. I was holding XRP at 10 cents. What was that, March 2020? And the whole time, I believed we could see double-digit XRP. Why? Because a low price alone doesn't mean the fundamentals are broken. The whole market was down, sure, but that doesn't automatically mean there's something wrong with XRP itself. So, remember back during the pandemic crash? XRP hit rock bottom, and honestly, nobody wanted it at 10 cents. But fast forward, once it climbs to 10 bucks, oh, suddenly everyone's your best friend. Lines out the door, people tripping over each other to grab it. That's just the psychology of markets. It never fails. Now here's the juicy part. CW points out there's this big sell wall sitting at $3.25. Basically, that's the guard dog keeping XRP from running wild. But if it breaks through, we're talking wide open skies. Of course, new walls can show up. resistance is always lurking, especially near that all-time high of 365 we touched back in July. Still, short term, that's the level you've got to watch. And if XRP does smash past it, buckle up, it could be smooth sailing for a while. Oh, and check this headline. Whales just scooped up $740 million worth of XRP, and the price popped 5%. That's not retail FOM, that's big money moving in. And get this, they're actually pointing to a post from chart analyst Ali Martinez. He's saying whales scooped up 250 million XRP in just 48 hours. That's insane. And honestly, I just find it fascinating because whales, they don't usually get caught on the wrong side of a move. Sure, some of that might be exchange activity, I'll give you that. But even then, would that kind of buying frenzy really be happening if XRP were some dead coin? Think about it. Do you really believe institutions, businesses, or anyone with deep pockets would be loading up if they didn't see something big on the horizon? No way. This is smart money. Wealthy, calculated players putting chips on XRP because they expect it to be worth way more down the line. To me, that's one heck of a vote of confidence. So check this out. Chart analyst Ether Nacino just dropped a post and it's wild. On the left, you've got XRP back in 2017. On the right, XRP in 2025. And he's pointing out that the price action today, it's looking eerily similar, like deja vu vibes. And if you remember 2017, oh man, that was the most insane XRP rally in history. XRP wasn't just good back then, it was the top performing coin in the entire crypto space. From the bottom to the peak of that cycle, we're talking about a jaw-dropping move of nearly 80,000%. Yep, 80,000%. It was absolutely bonkers. Now, sure, I'll be real, it was a different world then. There were, maybe 1,600 coins total? Now we're swimming in tens of thousands. Even in a crowded market, XRP still stands out. And honestly, even if it doesn't repeat being number one, even if the ROI isn't quite the same, this, right here, still feels like the sweet spot for crypto investing. Because let's be honest, XRP has already proven it's an early winner in the crypto game. And in my opinion, there's never been a better time to be holding it. Here's how I see it. And hey, just my humble opinion, but XRP today carries way less risk than it did back in 2017. And light years less than 2013 when it first started trading on exchanges. The game has changed. And even though XRP is already sitting as a large cap giant, the upside is still massive. Check this out. XRP's market cap is sitting around 178 billion. Sounds big, right? But then you look over at Bitcoin, 2.36 trillion. And honestly, I don't see any reason why Bitcoin can't smash past $1 million in the coming years. None. Which begs the question, what happens if XRP grabs just a slice of that pie? Even 20% of Bitcoin's market cap. That's a monster move. This is why I keep hammering this point home. In a full-blown bull cycle, with that crazy euphoric energy we all know can hit, double-digit XRP is not a fantasy. It's not some moon boy dream. It's a very real possibility. And if we get the kind of mania I'm hoping for, that number could get even wilder, at least for a brief moment. But short term, double digits make perfect sense. So let's get back to this post for a second. The analyst is pointing out something wild. He's saying the XRP wave we saw in the fourth quarter of 2017, it's literally playing out again right now. Same setup, same rhythm. First the accumulation phase, then a breakout, another round of sideways reaccumulation, then boom, another leg up, leading straight into distribution. And honestly, when this showed up on my feed, I had to laugh. I've been screaming this exact pattern for years. It's like deja vu with XRP. You get that one explosive pump, the sideways chop while smart money reloads, and then that final rocket leg where everyone loses their minds. That's the sell zone. That's where bubbles peak. And yeah, that's when things eventually burst. Now don't get it twisted, this isn't unique to XRP. Every market goes through the same life cycle. Burst, bubble, pop, crash. But here's the kicker. Each time the floor resets, it's higher than the last cycle. That's where the real opportunity hides. So here's my plan, straight up. I'm going to ride that mania. I'm going to sell when the market's frothy, And when the bear inevitably hits, because it always does, I'll be back in accumulation mode, loading up again. Because that's the game. Here's the thing. Every single cycle, it plays out the same way. When prices are high, when XRP is blasting past $10, everyone's watching. Everyone wants in. But the second it cools off, say it drops back to $3, $4, $5, whatever it is, suddenly those same people vanish. They're not paying attention anymore. But me, I will be. I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here running this channel, keeping my eyes on the long game. And when that dip comes, I'm going to scoop up as much XRP as I reasonably can with every new dollar I earn. Then I'll ride it all the way up again, sell into the peak of the next cycle, and create even more life-changing wealth. Because here's the truth. We're not done after one bull run. Not me, anyway. You do what you want, but as far as I'm concerned, the opportunities for massive gains in this space aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And honestly, that's exciting. Just look at the RSI from 2017. During that first leg up, it absolutely skyrocketed into overbought territory. Then, during accumulation, it cooled off. And right before the second leg, it shot right back up again. Same story, same rhythm. And if history repeats, well, you know where this is heading. So here's where we stand in 2025. That first leg up in November, XRP's RSI blasted into overbought. Exactly what you'd expect for a kickoff move. Then we cooled, moved sideways, nothing too crazy. Fast forward to July, boom, new all-time high. But look closely, RSI barely nudged into overbought territory. Translation, the big fireworks haven't even started yet. That final euphoric push, the one that drives RSI into the extreme red zone, that's still ahead. And I'm telling you, it's coming. You don't need to be a chart junkie to see it. I'm not, and yet the picture is obvious. History is rhyming. The setup is crystal clear, and the opportunity is right in front of us. And then you've got Crypto Science backing it up, calling XRP primed for a parabolic advance. Honestly, he nailed it. I don't see any other major coin building a structure this clean, this bullish right now. Remember, XRP's been shackled for years, pinned down, suffocated by all the SEC drama. But that chapter's over. The spring's been wound tighter and tighter, and now it's locked, loaded, and ready to unleash. Here we are, folks, and I'll tell you straight up, we're going to get ours. This story isn't finished yet. Even if Bitcoin has already peaked, and yeah, I'm still skeptical of that, it doesn't matter. Because here's the truth, nothing is stopping XRP holders from reaching life-changing wealth. Now, don't get me wrong. If Bitcoin does rip into another parabolic run, blasting up to 140,000, 150,000, maybe even 160,000, you better believe I'll be thrilled, because that kind of move would just pour rocket fuel onto XRP and the entire altcoin market. But let's be real, I've got the most skin in the game with XRP. It's my bias, it's my biggest bag by far, and it's the one I'm most excited about. And I honestly don't think we're going to be waiting much longer. The best days, they're still ahead of us. Of course, quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't go buy or sell anything just because I'm fired up about it. That'd be a terrible idea. Always make your own decisions.